Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the conversation. Today's episode will focus on the differences between physical and emotional pain and how these differences affect the person experiencing pain and those around them. So, we're going to be discussing different causes, effects, and factors that affect how people experience these very different types of trauma. While investigating this, I found it very interesting how both physical and emotional pain differently affect people and how they differ in the way they make people behave, how the perceptions of people around those experiencing pain can create and affect how they experience it. And all of these ideas are tied together under the umbrella of the differences between physical and emotional pain. So this is a really interesting topic to investigate. And although these types of pain are very different, a recurring theme that we see just throughout many examples or just research in general is that they often come hand in hand with each other. So wherever we see emotional pain, we generally see physical pain. A good place to start when we're looking at any type of pain is with the novel Unbroken, which is a true story that follows the journey of Louis Zamperini, who was an Olympic runner who enlisted in the army during World War II. And throughout the war, he ended up being captured by the Japanese in the Pacific. And he survived through many horrific prisoner of war camps, underwent many awful experiences. And throughout this, he experiences intense physical and emotional pain. This is why his story often serves as a major theme of perseverance for many people. Now, our first distinction between emotional pain and physical pain is that whereas emotional pain often results from a lack of sympathy, physical pain can earn sympathy and comfort. So this means that emotional pain can emerge from a feeling of loneliness, whereas physical pain often brings this feeling of community and love to the person experiencing it. So the often very cause of emotional pain, the solution to that is given not to those with emotional pain, but with physical pain. It's a strange phenomenon. We see this in Unbroken when Louis is in a Japanese prisoner of war camp. He hears that another prisoner of war at the camp is deathly ill. And obviously this guy is in intense physical pain. And when Louis hears this, he actually organizes a group of people to get extra food to this guy, get extra water to this guy, make sure he has enough blankets, keep him happy, cheer him up, and just overall make this guy's life a little bit better. So we're seeing that while someone is in intense physical pain, the result of this is that people are noticing and being essentially giving them sympathy and comfort. Now, in Educated, an example of emotional pain, we're going to see the exact opposite. So Educated is another true story. It's a novel. And in this novel, the main character, Tara, her parents are extreme fundamentalist Mormons. So they want their goal, basically, they think the apocalypse is coming any day now. So they're saving for the apocalypse, storing canned food, things like that. Their goal is to eventually be completely free from any dependence on the government, live completely off of their own supplies, not relying on electricity, food, water, anything like that, growing 100% of their own food, and just being completely independent. So Tara one day decides that she does not want to live like this anymore. And she leaves her parents' home and she leaves the religion of Mormonism entirely. And her story has a similar idea of perseverance that we see with Unbroken, where she is forced to undergo many very difficult struggles in this world that she's never really been exposed to for being born to rural survivalist parents. But the manner in which her need to persevere was caused reveals this important difference between physical and emotional pain, because when her parents see that she's left Mormonism, they obviously don't agree with this. They aren't very happy with this at all, and they essentially give Tara an ultimatum, which is that she's going to have to choose between this new life and this independence with new people and newfound freedom. She's going to have to choose between all of those things that she's grown to love or a relationship with her parents. And when Tara is forced to confront this realization, she begins to enter a spiral of despair and essentially just begins to lose her mind. So in this case, we're seeing that her parents' lack of empathy and understanding for her new beliefs or why she did this is causing her emotional pain, in contrast to Unbroken, where it was empathy and understanding that happened because of physical pain. And the reason that we often see this trend is that emotional pain is undiagnosable. You can't quantify emotional pain. You can't say this is the type of emotional pain, this is why it's occurring. It's not just like saying, okay, your bone is broken. It's a very abstract issue. An article on HuffPost.com by psychologist Samina Raza says you can't see psychological pain. You can't take an x-ray of it like you can of your broken arm and know that something's wrong. Not only do other people have trouble believing you are suffering, but you yourself doubt there's anything wrong. One minute you feel awful, the next minute you're feeling better. So this issue where you can't, like she says, you can't just take an x-ray of emotional pain, this often causes those with emotional pain to not necessarily receive the same glowing sympathy as those with physical pain. You can immediately see someone's cast on their leg and know that there's a problem. You sign the cast, you make them feel a little better, but you identify their physical pain and your instinct is to comfort them. But someone that recently lost their job may be in just as much pain, but you might never know. And because of this causes those with emotional pain to often just not receive the same level of sympathy. And it also can hurt those in emotional pain, because it can't be diagnosed, because you can't say for sure this is what's causing it. You have this. People who are undergoing intense emotional pain might not even be aware of it. They might not even know that they're suffering, causing their situation to only worsen. Now, another thing unique about emotional pain is that it can actually cause physical pain. And we see this again in Educated. When confronted with this awful decision that she's forced to make, Tara actually develops chronic headache pain in response to this situation. And we've also seen this in studies in the real world. Rachel Cohen of southwesternpain.com says, anxiety and stress can have physical ramifications if not controlled through counseling or some kind of behavioral health therapy. A number of studies have indicated stress can constrict the muscles and nerves, causing physical pain. So just how we've seen that emotional pain can literally trigger a physical response and cause physical pain, they go hand in hand, and physical pain can cause emotional pain, and emotional pain can come up just from physical pain. If you are experiencing really, really intense pain, can just make you just give up on life and feel hopeless, because if it can consume you. If all you ever think about is this pain, this physical pain, and this ever-present source of just sorrow and despair, you're gonna sink into a spiral of misery. If all you're seeing is pain, whether it be physical or emotional, it's going to worsen your emotional physique. Your emotional well-being and your mental health will mimic your physical state. We see this in another World War II example. An article on independent.co.uk by Liz Bestick speaks of a World War II prisoner of war like Louis Zamperini, who was imprisoned this time in the South Pacific on Java in Southeast Asia. And he underwent tortures such as, just like Louis, being staked out in midday sun with a glass of water just out of reach, and being forced to drink pints of water, being tied to the ground, and then having gleeful guards jump on his stomach. Now, this physical pain, this had a lasting impact on his emotional landscape and his mental health. After the war, when he returned home, this is a quote from his son. "The trauma my father experienced damaged him for the rest of his life, and he was prone to long bouts of deep depression and terrifying nightmares, which frightened my mother and had a tremendous impact on our family." So just how we saw emotional pain igniting a physical response, we can also see that physical pain often ignites an emotional response. So to wrap up, we've seen that emotional and physical pain are very different. They have very different causes and very different effects, which are often polar opposites. We've also seen that they often come hand in hand, and they're both obviously major sources of grief and gloom, but each do have these distinct distinctions and differences that drastically affect the manner the person experiencing pain is affected and how those around them respond. Oftentimes, you're just going to see these distinctions on both sides, just because they can often cause each other and go hand in hand. This has been The Conversation, and make sure to tune in next week for another interesting discussion.